The trap springs. The research vessel New Horizon drifted silently through the asteroid field of the Sirian system, its hull scarred and patched from countless deep space missions. Captain Maya Chen stood on the bridge, watching her crew work with quiet efficiency. The ship looked exactly like what it claimed to be, a tired, old human research vessel pushing the boundaries of known space, searching for new minerals and biological samples to help Earth's struggling colonies. Dr. James Mitchell hunched over his cynobiology station, cataloging what appeared to be rock samples from the nearby asteroids. His weathered face showed the fatigue of a man who had spent too many years in the black void between stars. At 28, he looked older, his brown hair already showing streaks of gray. But his eyes remained sharp, constantly scanning his instruments with the focus of someone who had learned that survival depended on paying attention to details. Lieutenant Sofia Rodriguez monitored communications from her station, her dark eyes reflecting the blue glow of her screens. At 26, she was the youngest bridge officer, but her record spoke of someone who could think fast under pressure. Her fingers moved across her controls with practiced ease, maintaining the ship's scientific scanning patterns while simultaneously tracking the deeper space around them. The New Horizon had been working in this system for 3 weeks, following the same routine every day. They would emerge from hyperspace, scan asteroids for valuable materials, collect samples, and transmit their findings back to Earth. To any observer, they were just another desperate human crew trying to find something valuable enough to justify their dangerous journey into unexplored space. But today would be different. "Captain," Sophia called out, her voice carrying just the right amount of concern. "I'm detecting multiple contacts approaching from the edge of the system. Large vessels, moving in formation." Maya nodded slowly, keeping her expression neutral. "How many ships, Lieutenant?" 12 contacts, ma'am. Their energy signatures match hegemony fleet patterns. They're big ones, too, each vessel at least 6 times our size. Dr. Mitchell looked up from his station, his face showing carefully controlled worry. "Captain, the hegemony doesn't usually travel in groups that large unless they're planning something significant. They're the dominant military power in this sector." Maya walked to the center of the bridge, her movements calm and measured. The hegemony was indeed a force to be reckoned with. Their reptilian species had conquered 17 different worlds, building their empire through superior firepower and ruthless efficiency. They viewed humans as an annoying new species that had appeared in their territory without permission. "Sophia, are they hailing us?" "Not yet, Captain. But they're taking up positions around us." Classic encirclement pattern. Maya settled into her command chair, projecting the image of a civilian captain facing an impossible situation. She had trained for this moment for 2 years, preparing for the day when humanity would need to prove that they belonged among the stars. The hegemony had been raiding human outposts for months, testing their defenses and studying their capabilities. Today, that testing would end. The main screen flickered to life, showing the bridge of the lead hegemony vessel. Admiral Zekthor filled the screen, his reptilian features twisted into what passed for a smile among his species. His scales were deep green with gold markings that indicated high rank, and his yellow eyes studied the human bridge with predatory interest. Behind him, Commander Vexhai observed silently, her smaller frame and silver scales marking her as Zekthor's intelligence officer. "Human vessel." Zekthor's voice came through the universal translator with a hissing undertone. "I am Admiral Zekthor of the 3rd Hegemony Fleet. Your ship has violated hegemony space. Prepare to be boarded and your crew processed." Maya stood up slowly, making sure to look appropriately intimidated. "Admiral Zekthor, we are a scientific research vessel operating under interstellar law. We have committed no hostile acts and pose no threat to hegemony interests." Zekthor's laugh was like the sound of grinding stone. "Your species amuses me, human. You speak of laws while your government refuses to acknowledge hegemony authority in this sector. But do not worry. You will serve the hegemony in other ways. Your biological knowledge will be useful to us, and your ship will make an excellent addition to our fleet." "Admiral," Maya said carefully. Perhaps we can reach some kind of understanding. We have valuable scientific data that could benefit both our species. The only understanding, Zekthor replied, his voice growing colder, is your complete surrender. You have 5 minutes to disable your engines and prepare for boarding. Any attempt to flee or resist will result in your destruction. The screen went dark, leaving the bridge in tense silence. Maya looked around at her crew, who were all watching her with expressions of fear that weren't entirely acting. Even knowing what was coming, facing down 12 hegemony warships was enough to make anyone nervous. Well, Maya said quietly, 5 minutes should be plenty of time. She walked over to her command console and placed her palm on a hidden scanner. Command authorization, Chen Alpha 77. Initiate Project Mousetrap. The bridge exploded into activity as the ship's true nature revealed itself. Hidden panels slid away to expose advanced tactical displays and quantum processing units. The worn civilian stations transformed into military-grade command centers bristling with capabilities that existed nowhere else in human space. Maya's simple civilian clothes dissolved away, replaced by the black uniform of Earth's Special Operations Command, 3 silver stars gleaming on her collar. Dr. Mitchell straightened up, his apparent fatigue vanishing as his xenobiology station revealed itself to be an advanced psychological warfare center. His credentials were real. He was indeed a brilliant scientist, but he was also a former intelligence operative who specialized in understanding alien psychology and exploiting their weaknesses. Sophia's communication station expanded into a full tactical coordination center, displaying real-time positions of every ship in the system. Her young face now showed the focused intensity of someone trained in deep space combat operations. James, Admiral Chen said, her voice now carrying the authority of someone who had commanded fleets in 3 different sectors. What's the psychological profile on hegemony command structure? Highly hierarchical, Dr. Mitchell replied, his fingers dancing over displays that showed detailed analysis of alien behavioral patterns. Admiral Zekthor is typical of their military caste, arrogant, overconfident, and completely convinced of hegemony superiority. He'll expect us to either surrender immediately or make a desperate, futile run for the edge of the system. Sophia, signal the Phantom Squadron. Tell them it's time to come out and play. Yes, Mom. Transmitting activation codes now. Outside the New Horizon, the asteroid field began to change. What had appeared to be ordinary rocks started moving with purpose, their surfaces splitting open to reveal the sleek hulls of human stealth ships. 47 vessels emerged from their hiding places, each one designed for a specific purpose in the trap that humanity had spent 2 years preparing. The Phantom Squadron consisted of ships unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. Instead of massive battleships designed to overpower enemies through superior firepower, human engineers had created vessels that worked together like a pack of wolves. Each ship was smaller than a single hegemony cruiser, but together they formed a coordinated hunting pack that could adapt to any situation. Admiral Zekthor watched his sensors with growing confusion as the human research vessel suddenly began broadcasting energy signatures that matched those of a command ship. His reptilian eyes narrowed as he tried to understand what was happening. Commander Vexai, what are your sensors showing? Vexai's silver scales rippled with anxiety as she studied her displays. Admiral, that human vessel is generating power levels that exceed our flagship, and I'm detecting 47 additional contacts emerging from the asteroid field. They appear to be warships of unknown design. Impossible, Zekthor hissed. Human technology is primitive. They barely have faster-than-light travel. Admiral, the communications officer called out, the human vessel is hailing us. Put them on screen. Admiral Chen's image appeared on the hegemony bridge. But now she looked nothing like the frightened research captain they had spoken to minutes earlier. Her uniform was crisp and military, her bearing that of someone accustomed to command. Admiral Zekthor, she said in a calm, professional voice, I am Admiral Maya Chen of the Earth Defense Force. You are now surrounded by the most advanced fleet in human space. I'm offering you one chance to withdraw from this system peacefully." Zekthor's eyes blazed with fury. "You dare threaten the hegemony with your pathetic vessels? We have conquered 17 worlds. Your entire species numbers less than 12 billion. Chen smiled, and there was something in that expression that made Vexay's scales ripple with instinctive fear. "Admiral, you made the same mistake that every predator species makes when they encounter humans for the first time. You assume that because we're smaller and fewer in number, we must be prey. You are prey," Zekthor snarled. "Weak, short-lived creatures clinging to a single world." "No, Admiral," Chen replied, her voice taking on an edge that spoke of countless generations of human survival. "We're pack hunters, and you just walked into our territory." On the tactical display, the Phantom Squadron moved into attack formation with a precision that spoke of months of practice. Each ship knew its role. Each captain understood how their vessel fit into the larger pattern. The hegemony fleet suddenly found themselves facing not 47 individual ships, but a single coordinated organism designed specifically to hunt larger prey. Zekthor's sensor officer looked up with panic in his yellow eyes. "Admiral, they're using some kind of coordinated targeting system. Every one of their ships is locked onto a different section of our fleet. And their weapon signatures, I've never seen anything like them." "Fire on the nearest human vessel," Zekthor commanded. The hegemony ship's massive guns opened fire, sending streams of energy toward one of the human ships. But the target vessel simply wasn't there anymore. It had moved with impossible speed, its position coordinated perfectly with the other ships in its pack. The energy beams struck empty space while the human ship appeared behind the hegemony cruiser, its weapons already charging. "Admiral Chen," Dr. Mitchell called out from his station, psychological analysis complete. "Admiral Zekthor is showing elevated stress indicators. He's beginning to realize that his assumptions about human capabilities were incorrect." "Excellent. Sophia, patch me through to the entire hegemony fleet." Chen's image appeared on every bridge in the alien fleet. Her voice was calm, but underneath it was something that spoke of humanity's long climb from the caves to the stars. A species that had survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and the darkness between worlds through one simple principle: never give up, never stop fighting, and never hunt alone. "Hegemony fleet," she said, "you have 30 seconds to begin withdrawal from this system. After that, we will demonstrate why humans have never been conquered, why we've never surrendered, and why every species that has underestimated us has learned to regret it." The trap was sprung. Now the real hunt would begin. When predators become prey. Admiral Zekthor stared at the tactical display in disbelief. His 12 massive warships, each one capable of destroying a planet's surface, were now surrounded by human vessels that moved like nothing he had ever encountered. The ships didn't fight like the rigid formations used by every other species in the galaxy. Instead, they flowed around his fleet like water, each vessel anticipating the movements of its packmates with an almost telepathic coordination. "Commander Vexay," he said, his voice tight with growing concern. "Analysis of human tactics." Vexay's scales had turned pale silver, a sign of deep anxiety among her species. "Admiral, they're not following any known combat doctrine. Each ship seems to be operating independently, but they're coordinated in ways our computers can't predict. It's like they're thinking as a single entity." On the bridge of the New Horizon, Admiral Chen watched the hegemony fleet's confusion with satisfaction. "James, are you reading their psychological profiles?" Dr. Mitchell nodded, his screen showing detailed analysis of stress hormones and behavioral patterns from every alien ship. "Admiral, they're used to fighting species that either surrender immediately or engage in straightforward combat. They've never faced pack tactics before. Their command structure is breaking down as they try to process what they're seeing." "Sophia, patch me through to Captain Torres on the Wolfpack leader." The screen split to show Captain Maria Torres, a veteran of humanity's expansion wars. Her ship, the Relentless Hunt, was the lead vessel of the Phantom Squadron's Alpha Pack. Behind her, the bridges of 6 other ships showed their captains, all waiting for orders. "Admiral," Torres said, "we're in position. The hegemony vessels are trying to form defensive formations, but they're too slow. They're used to fighting enemies that telegraph their intentions." "Excellent, Maria. Begin Phase 2. Show them what happens when prey fights back." The Alpha Pack moved as one, 7 ships diving toward the hegemony formation with coordinated precision. But instead of engaging directly, they used the asteroids as cover, appearing and disappearing in ways that made targeting impossible. Each time a hegemony ship fired, the humans were already gone, having moved to a position their enemies couldn't predict. Captain Torres's voice came through the communication system, calm and professional. "Beta Pack, execute flanking maneuver Tango 7. Gamma Pack, prepare to demonstrate why bigger isn't always better." Admiral Zekthor watched in growing horror as his flagship's weapons fired repeatedly at targets that vanished the moment his gunners acquired locks. "How are they moving so quickly? Our sensors show their ships have inferior engines." Commander Vexai studied her instruments with desperate intensity. "Admiral, I think I understand. They're not just using individual ship capabilities. They're sharing computational power across their entire fleet. Each ship is processing movement data for all the others. They're fighting as a collective intelligence. Impossible. No species has ever achieved that level of coordination." But as Zekthor spoke, the human ships demonstrated exactly how possible it was. The Beta Pack emerged from behind a cluster of asteroids, their weapons firing in perfect synchronization. Instead of trying to punch through the heavy armor of the hegemony ships, they targeted specific systems with surgical precision. Communication arrays, sensor pods, and weapon targeting systems began to fail across the alien fleet. On the new horizon, Dr. Mitchell called out from his psychological warfare station. "Admiral, I'm detecting panic indicators in several hegemony vessels. Their crews are beginning to understand that they're not fighting individual ships. They're fighting something that thinks faster than they do." Admiral Chen nodded grimly. "Sophia, open a channel to Admiral Zekthor." The reptilian commander's face appeared on screen, his golden scales now dull with stress. Behind him, his bridge crew worked frantically at stations that were failing one by one. "Admiral Zekthor," Chen said, her voice carrying no mockery, only the certainty of someone who had studied war for her entire career. "You have 2 choices. Withdraw your fleet now or learn why humanity has never been successfully conquered. You cannot defeat us." Zekthor snarled, but his voice carried less conviction than before. "We have conquered 17 worlds. We have the largest fleet in this sector. And every one of those conquests was against species that fought the way you expected them to fight," Chen replied. "Species that believed in individual strength, in the power of large ships and overwhelming firepower. But humans learned something different during our evolution, Admiral. We learned that the pack always wins." To demonstrate her point, Chen activated the tactical display, showing the positions of both fleets. "You see 12 individual ships that you believe can overpower 47 smaller vessels. But you're not fighting 47 ships, Admiral. You're fighting one organism with 47 bodies, and it's hunting you." As if to emphasize her words, the human fleet shifted formation. The Gamma Pack, consisting of the smallest and fastest vessels, began to move in spiraling patterns around the hegemony ships. They didn't fire their weapons. They didn't need to. Their mere presence forced the alien vessels to constantly adjust their positions, breaking up their defensive formations and creating opportunities for the larger Alpha and Beta Packs to strike. Captain Torres's voice came through the communication system. "Admiral, the hegemony flagship is attempting to break free from the encirclement. Permission to demonstrate human tenacity." "Permission granted, Maria. Show them what happens when they try to run from the pack." The Alpha Pack moved with deadly purpose, 7 ships converging on the Hegemony flagship from different directions. But instead of attacking directly, they began to herd Zekthor's massive vessel like wolves dragging prey. Every time the flagship tried to turn toward the edge of the system, human ships appeared in its path, forcing it back toward the center of the trap. Admiral Zekthor watched his escape routes disappear one by one, his sensors showing human ships wherever he tried to maneuver. This is impossible. How do they know where we're going to move before we move? Commander Vexay's voice was barely a whisper. Admiral, I don't think they're predicting our movements. I think they're controlling them. They're herding us like animals. The truth of her words became clear as the Phantom Squadron continued its deadly dance. The humans weren't just randomly attacking. They were forcing the Hegemony fleet into a specific position, driving them toward the densest part of the asteroid field, where their larger ships would have no room to maneuver. Dr. Mitchell looked up from his station, his screen showing psychological profiles that painted a clear picture of the alien fleet's deteriorating morale. Admiral, the Hegemony crews are showing classic signs of learned helplessness. They're beginning to understand that they're not fighting an enemy. They're being hunted by something that understands them better than they understand themselves. Admiral Chen opened a fleet-wide channel. All ships, this is Admiral Chen. Begin Phase 3. It's time to show the galaxy what humans do to those who threaten our people. The final phase of the trap revealed itself as the human ships stopped their seemingly random movements and formed into a perfect sphere around the Hegemony fleet. Every alien vessel found itself targeted by multiple human ships, their weapons locked on with precision that spoke of technology far beyond what the galaxy believed humans possessed. But the most devastating weapon wasn't technological, it was psychological. As the humans held their positions, Admiral Chen's voice filled the communication channels of every ship in both fleets. Admiral Zekthor, you made the mistake of believing that humans were like every other species you've conquered. You thought we would either surrender immediately or fight you ship to ship in a battle you could understand. But humans didn't become the dominant species on Earth by being stronger than our predators. We became dominant by being smarter, by working together, and by never giving up. She paused, letting her words sink in across the alien fleet. Your ancestors evolved as solitary hunters on a world where individual strength determined survival. But human ancestors were prey animals who learned to hunt in packs. We learned to think together, to plan together, and to fight together. And that, Admiral, is why you're going to lose. The Hegemony fleet tried one last desperate gambit, attempting to concentrate their firepower on a single section of the human formation. But the moment they began to move, the Phantom Squadron responded. Ships that had been targeted simply moved out of the way while others flowed in to fill the gaps. The human formation bent but didn't break, absorbing the alien attack while simultaneously repositioning for a devastating counterattack. Captain Torres's voice cut through the chaos. Admiral, the enemy flagship is showing signs of engine failure. They're dead in space. Confirmed, Sophia reported. Multiple Hegemony vessels are reporting critical system failures. Their fleet cohesion is collapsing. Admiral Chen watched the tactical display as the Hegemony fleet fell apart, their rigid command structure unable to cope with an enemy that refused to fight by the rules they understood. James, final psychological assessment. Dr. Mitchell studied his displays, his face grim. Admiral, they're defeated, not just militarily, but psychologically. They understand now that they're not fighting humans. They're fighting something that has been perfected by millions of years of evolution. They're facing the end result of every human who ever survived by being smarter than their predators. Admiral Zekthor, Chen said, opening a final communication channel to the alien commander, your fleet is disabled. Your crews are demoralized. Your empire's reputation for invincibility is about to become a cautionary tale told across the galaxy. I'm offering you one last chance to withdraw. The reptilian admiral's image appeared on screen, his golden scales now completely dull, his eyes showing the defeated look of a predator that had discovered it was actually prey. "What? What are you?" Admiral Chen smiled, but there was no cruelty in it, only the quiet confidence of someone who had just demonstrated a fundamental truth about humanity. "We're what happens when prey decides to fight back, Admiral. We're the species that turned running away into hunting strategy, that turned fear into fuel, and that turned individual weakness into collective strength." She gestured to the tactical display, showing the perfectly coordinated human fleet. "You wanted to know what humans are, Admiral. We're the species that never learned how to give up. And now the galaxy will know it too." The Hegemony fleet began its long journey home, their ships limping away from a battle they had expected to win easily. Behind them, the Phantom Squadron maintained its formation, ready to spring the trap again if needed. As the alien vessels disappeared into hyperspace, Dr. Mitchell looked up from his station. "Admiral, we're receiving communications from 17 different star systems. Word of this engagement is already spreading across the galaxy." Admiral Chen nodded, settling back in her command chair as the New Horizon resumed its disguise as a simple research vessel. "Good. Let them know that humanity is here to stay. And let them know that we hunt in packs." The trap had worked perfectly. But more importantly, the galaxy now understood that humanity wasn't just another species to be conquered or ignored. They were something new, something that had learned to turn their apparent weaknesses into devastating strengths. In the depths of space, the human fleet continued its patrol, ready to spring the next trap on anyone foolish enough to underestimate the species that had clawed its way from the caves to the stars through one simple principle: never hunt alone.